I knew when I entered that charity gala I was hated by his family. They muttered, rolled their eyes behind my back when he talked and acted as like I did it belong. However, when his sister seized the microphone to publicly embarrass me, too realized the moment had come to tell my secret. Hello everyone, before I reveal what occurred that evening, be sure to hit that subscribe button because this story is going to take twists you have never seen. Before approaching, you don't want to miss it. I promise. What follows. Destiny is my name, and I believed I had 3 years ago discovered my fairy story. I had no idea I was going to have a bad dream fat world challenge all of my beliefs about myself. This is the account of my journey. From the lady they made fun of to the lady who made them unable to speak. It began on a rainy Tuesday in Chicago's downtown. I was in a hurry to catch a taxi following a business conference when a tall, attractive man wearing a costly suit entered the puddle I was in directly, attempting to stay away. Splashes of water all over, drenching my presentation, materials as well as my favorite clothing. The majority of people would have just left, perhaps throw some cash at the issue. Jonathan didn't only apologize, though. He helped me for the following 2 hours. Repeating my talk to a local cafe. He purchased a new clothing for me. And somehow made my worst day into a week into something enchanted. I discovered Jonathan subsequently served as the CEO of a billion-dollar IT firm. However, in that coffee cafe, he was only an individual who produced my sides hurt from laughing. He did it aware that I had established my own consulting business, starting from the beginning. That I had Matradine Southside Chicago's Projectwo's mother was unmarried and worked 3 jobs to sustain ourselves. Our connection grew slowly. Jonathan would, of course, after work, come get me and we'll go for a drive. All across the city discussing our aspirations and anxieties. He informed me of the pressure. Of managing a family company. I informed him regarding studying by the light of a candle when the power was turned off, approximately teachers who said I didn't belong inside their classrooms. 6 months into our connection, Jonathan seated me with an indication of seriousness. Fate, he stated, I must share with you some information regarding my family. They will not comprehend, they won't comprehend you, either. You are the object of my affection, and I didn't want to be harmed by their stupidity. I ought to have paid attention to the caution. I was young, though. I had fallen in love. Additionally, I have faith that love may triumph. Anything. I thought that if I were wise, I would have tried harder. Sufficient, prosperous enough, compassionate enough, anyone may be won over by me. I was mistaken. My initial encounter with Victoria and Jonathan's sister and mother, Amanda, is spent hours preparing. I selected April earrings, a modest blue dress, and pumps that caused pain in my feet. It wished to create the ideal first impression. As soon as I entered their Lake Forest house, I was aware that I had already failed. Victoria gave me a glance. Up and down as if she were examining Ash was considering a piece of furniture. About going back. Her grin was courteous. Yet chilly. You are Jonathan's friend, then? She emphasized the term friend in her statement. Amanda was terrible. It tasted horrible. She was 28, 2 years my junior. However, she exuded a sense of ownership. The universe. She regarded me as though I were interest. Something foreign that she brought home for display, according to brother. She said, Destiny. Trying to test my name. As though it were alien? That's intriguing. Does it stand for something? No, Destiny is the only one. My mom picked it because she said that I was destined for greatness. How charming, Victoria spoke those words. However, her tone implied it. Was not at all. Additionally, what do you do, sweetheart? I informed them about my consultancy work. Company, about the Fortune 500 businesses I collaborated with, about my business construct from nothing, I observed. Them closely examining expressions, searching for some expression of gratitude or appreciation, rather. Victoria gave a courteous nod and remarked, That's nice, dear. Companies are crucial to the economy, small companies. I had 15 workers and had recently agreed to a contract. $2 million in value. However, to her, everything I had constructed was unimportant. The remainder of the night served as a master lesson in nuanced humiliation. They discussed individuals I had never encountered, locations I had never visited, encounters I had never had. When it stated that I was unfamiliar with Amanda really chuckled at Hamptons. "Oh," she remarked, "you have to go sometime," but let's say it's not your scene. What did that mean? What scene did I have, supposed to be? I nodded, grinned, and pretended that I wasn't offended by what they said, like little blades. When we eventually departed, throughout the journey, Jonathan remained silent. House, when he finally said, "I'm sorry." Normally, they're not like that, but it was aware that he was lying. This wasn't out of the ordinary. Conduct for them. It was only Tuesday. I spent the evening with the family and was the issue that had interfered with their idelf world. When Jonathan suggested 8 months later, I believe fat shift. I believed that after we were to be considered family, they would need to take me in. Our wedding was stunning. However, even on my wedding day, I sensed Amanda's and Victoria's disapproval like a killy breeze. At the reception, he heard Amanda conversing with her cousin close to the bar. "Well, she's at least pretty," Amanda remarked. "And I guess Jonathan was in search of someone who could provide. He is a rhythmic child." I sensed it as if I had been struck. However, it was my wedding day and I was reluctant to scene. I thus swallowed my rage and acted as though I hadn't heard. The months following our wedding were a regular conflict. Victoria would give Jonathan a call for family meals and neglect to bring up that I received an invitation. Amanda would share of family get-togethers on social media that I was unaware of. When I did go to family gatherings, they'd speak through me to get around me, but never tome. Observing Jonathan was the most unpleasant aspect. Struggle, although he cherished his family, helped me as well. He was also ensnared in the center. He would offer justifications for their conduct, imply that perhaps I was being too delicate. He wasn't trying, I understood that. To harm me, but each time he stood up for it seemed like a betrayal to them. I began to question myself. Perhaps I was being too delicate. Perhaps I was the issue. These were prosperous, accomplished, and well-educated individuals. Who was I to doubt their conduct? However, I would then recall my mother's remarks from my early years girl. "You don't have to shrink, baby, yourself to influence others. No matter where you are, you belong. Decide to be." Things reached a breaking point during a conference for family business that I unintentionally walked in on. Jonathan had left some papers at home, and I volunteered to take them to his workplace. Upon my arrival, I discovered him in the meeting space with Victoria and Amanda. A scattering of papers on the table. They all appear anxious and worried. "Oh," Victoria murmured when she saw me. "Jonathan, maybe we should carry on this discussion later." However, I was about to depart when I noticed off the documents on the desk. Monetary declarations, loan records, and figures that didn't seem good. Very bad. "Is all right?" I inquired, since it truly had concern for Jonathan and his family in spite of everything. "Everything is okay," answered Amanda hastily. "Only a few little changes to our investment plan. But I had devoted years to examining financial records, assisting businesses, handle crisis circumstances. He understood what financial difficulties looked like, and this family remained involved until they next. In the upcoming weeks, he began to listen more intently. Some of Victoria's clothes had been discontinued. Pricey. Jewelry. Amanda had relocated into the household, asserting that she desired to be with her more. Mom, but in reality, since she was unable to no longer be able to afford her condo in the city center. Jonathan was putting in more hours at work. Attending more meetings, worrying about things he refused to talk about with me. My own firm, meantime, was doing quite well. I recently secured 3 new majors. Customers, and my earnings increased by 40% from the year prior. I received an invitation. Must give talks at conferences as stated in trade journals. However, when I disclosed great accomplishments with Jonathan's relatives, they would give a courteous nod and alter the topic. On one night, I heard Victoria on the phone talking about their financial issues and their state looking into every possibility. The following day, Amanda commented on the fact that some people were unable to comprehend the obligations that come with becoming older. How those with new money didn't comprehend the heritage of the family. I was aware that they were referring to me. The irony was it would be almost amusing if they knew that I was most likely the most financially secure. A member of their family at the time, the request to attend the yearly Children's Hospital Charity Gala made its appearance on pricey gold-plated card stock lettering. It was among the most special occasions in the city where the elite of Chicago came to see and be seen. When drafting checks that are tax-deductible. You, Jonathan, responded, "You don't have to go," when they presented the invitation to him. I am aware of this, not really into events, but I was attempting to understand what he truly meant. To shield me from yet another night off mild embarrassment. I was also fed up with being shielded. I had had enough of hiding. I want to go because I'm sick of shrinking, stated. Jonathan, we're married. I'm included in whether they like it or not, this family not at all. On the evening of the gala, I selected my dress with care. An exquisite black gown, diamonds that shone in the sunlight, shoes. That gave me a sense of strength. It wished to appear as though I was a part of their globe, even though I would never feel as though I did. It was a spectacular ballroom. Chandeliers, made of crystal, create swirling shadows. On the walls, as well as the most champagne was mixed with. Influential individuals. Spectacles and rehearsed grins. Victoria and Amanda were having a great time, moving through the throng as if they had it. They presented Jonathan with significant others, including him in talks, ensuring he was seen with the appropriate individuals. I trailed behind. Similar to a shadow. The silent auction was overflowing with things I couldn't afford, despite my accomplishments. I observed Victoria, without even looking, place a bid on a sculpture. At the cost. Casually observed Amanda write a check for a Parisian weekend. As if it were spare coins. Next came fest speeches. The director of the hospital spoke about the significant effort they were doing. Numerous benefactors were acknowledged for what they have contributed. That's when Amanda got to her feet and requested the microphone. I want to mention a few speaking, she said, her voice traversing the ballroom with assurance. This nonprofit is real to our family, and we're immensely glad to be here among folks tonight. Who recognize the value of donating back. She hesitated, allowing her gaze to traverse the throng before coming to rest on obviously. Not everyone understands, I said, the obligations that accompany privilege. Some individuals witness things like this as chances instead of commitments. Some individuals believe that when you marry into a family, you immediately comprehend the values that created that family. My heart began thumping. She was referring to me. In front of everyone, she was discussing me. It is regrettable when unsuitable family additions lack awareness of the significance of rootance, of being aware of one's position. However, that must be what occurs when individuals marry outside of their social status. When people from particular backgrounds attempt to put oneself in situations where they do not belong. At that point, something snapped within of me. I got out of my chair, scuffing the marble floor. I said, "Pardon me," in a clear and powerful. "Could I please have that microphone?" The ballroom went quiet. Amanda exudes confidence. She glanced at me, then her grin wavered. At me, then back at her mom. She had anticipated that I would sit there and accept it, like I did. Except her public humiliation. Received a lot of private ones. "I don't believe that's essential," Victoria stated from her table. "Yes, but I believe it is," said as he approached the stage. My limbs felt solid, my voice was powerful, and after 3 years, I felt for the first time like though I was fully aware of who I was, and the location I fit in. Amanda grudgingly gave me her eyes, the microphone, and perplexity, and the initial glimmer of terror I had ever been there. The space was utterly silent at this moment. Hundreds of the most influential individuals in Chicago are waiting to determine what the unsuitable addition have to say to the family. I'm grateful, spoken, my voice flowing naturally through the ballroom. I wish to share with you all a narrative. It concerns a little girl who developed redirected in a Southern housing project Chicago side. Her mom had 3 jobs, occupations to provide for their families. And there wasn't always enough money for groceries as well as electricity, so they decided on groceries. Jonathan was visible to me in the audience, his expression a combination off-ride and worry. Victoria was visible to me. Amanda and them, their faces changing from uncertainty to something that may panicked. This young girl was intelligent, but she was informed that she wasn't belong in more advanced classes. She was gifted, but she was informed that she wasn't possess the appropriate connections. She was resolved, but she was informed that individuals like her failed in locations such as this. I pointed to the ballroom. She didn't listen, though. She researched by candlelight. When the electricity was switched off, she paid for college by working 2 jobs, using just $500. She launched her own company. As well as a dream. And what do you know? She accomplished. The space was entirely quiet. That little girl has now constructed a consultancy business that collaborates with Fortune 500 businesses. She has 15 employees and has appeared in Business and Forbes Week as well as the Journal of Wall Street. She has been acknowledged as one of the leading experts in her area. I stopped, allowing my words to register. However, most significantly, that little girl gained knowledge. A family-related topic. She discovered that family isn't about wealth or relationships. Or the proper last name. Family is about kindness, encouragement, and defending one another when things get hard. I looked straight at Amanda and Victoria. Regretfully, some people never pick up new skills. That lesson. Some individuals believe that they are superior to others because of their wealth, that having the correct last name provides them with their right to be nasty to others and disrespect. My voice became louder. However, this is what those individuals don't comprehend. When that little girl learned that her family married into was in danger of becoming bankrupt, upon learning that generations of money has been handled so badly that off insolvency, she refrained from boasting, shouldn't leave. The hue was extracted from the face of Victoria. Amanda's jaw dropped open. Jonathan seemed perplexed. Rather, she contacted her network in private. She set up meetings, assisted open doors, and made deals. Additionally, when that wasn't sufficient, when the family company was in danger of collapsing, she made a choice that would alter everything. It stopped, allowing the tension to rise. She composed a personal check from her personal narrative. $50 million to prevent a family-run company that was owned by individuals who had handled her in such a manner ruthless. The gasp that was heard, you could hear the room. She carried it out, using a shell company in an anonymous manner because she was not interested in becoming recognized. She only wished to protect the family that she spouse cherished, despite the fact the family had never discovered how to return her love. Victoria was looking at me horrified and incredulity. Amanda appeared as though she may be ill. Jonathan's expression was a work of feelings that I was unable to read. However, standing him listening to speakers here tonight, considering unsuitable additions, Andy believe it's time to learn one's role for a little truthfulness. It's time for everyone in this space to comprehend that value not influenced by one's background, however, based on your actions with the chances that are presented to you. I look straight at Amanda. The improper being a member of your family is not thy issue. A family is the issue, is oblivious to their own biases that they unable to recognize the goodness that has been directly in front of them. I'd like to explain the specifics of how this occurred. I kept the microphone firmly in my hands. 3 months prior, I was going over a few financial records that Jonathan had remained on his desk. I looked at the numbers and I understood their meaning because what I do is examine financial statements, work for a living. Jonathan's gaze was fixed on his face is pallid now, me. The household 3 months separated the business from insolvency. Complete, not striving downfall of the economy. 70 years of family legacy on the verge of extinction due to negative investments as well as inadequate management. I examined Victoria the Lake House, Forest, the Hiltz Mortgage, the Aspen Vacation House already sold even, though they have been returning the rental to keep up appearances. The Household Foundation intended to provide funds. This charity is worthless. A whisper went through the throng. These were commercialthos that recognized who I was explaining. I tried for weeks to determine ways to assist without interfering. I made contact with Mindtwork and looked for investors. Scheduled talks with possible purchasers. However, it was insufficient. The business required a $50 cash inflow right away million simply to survive. I looked straight at Jonathan. Thus, I dialed my attorney and had him create a shell organization known as Phoenix Holdings. $50 million was moved from my personal money in my investing account, which the first Ernadan saved for more than a decade, and I purchased at debt. The space was entirely liquid. I didn't purchase the business, I didn't assume command. I recently purchased the debt, and it was forgiven. I provided this family with another opportunity. And I succeeded because I didn't want them to be anonymusto have a sense of duty to me. I could see Jonathan's eyes are suddenly filled with tears. However, this is what I discovered tonight. It doesn't anything you do to help those who have determined that you don't belong. It no matter how much you give up, how generous you are, and how much you care, I regarded Amanda. Let me clarify regarding something. I'm not an unsuitable addition to this family. 2, don't need to be acquainted with her location. I'm not married, outside of her course. My voice became more powerful. I have achieved success, the entrepreneur who rescued your family from financial collapse. I am a devoted spouse hope at the pleasure of her spouse above her own personal comfort. I'm a powerful lady with suffered through 3 years of bigotry and harshness with dignity and elegance. I turn around to speak to the whole room. Additionally, I am living evidence that value is not fixed by your origins, but by what you take advantage of the chances that are presented. Chaos broke out in the ballroom. At every table, discussions erupted as people analyzed what they had just heard. Victoria rose from her chair. Her expression was one of restrained rage. This is not a suitable location for a family gathering. Talks, she stated. You're correct, stated, keeping the microphone in hand. Family conversations ought to take place in confidential between those that treat each other with love and respect. Regretfully, I have never received an invitation to take part in any familiar conversations. Amanda discovered her voice. You had no authority to meddle in our business affairs, she stated. I had everything is fine, I responded coolly. I'm a part of this family, regardless of whether it, and in times of family crisis, even if they don't deserve it, aid them. At last, Jonathan got to his feet. He went deliberately in the direction of the stage. He extended his hand to me when he arrived, for the microphone. My wife is right, he spoke, his voice echoing over the quiet ballroom. She has received care. I've let my family to treat me horribly. To occur. I've offered justifications when I ought to have insisted that she be treated with dignity. He examined his sister and mother. Destiny preserved orphanly. She kept our company, our future, our reputation, and she succeeded silently without requesting praise. Because she loves me, she did it. Was aware that losing the family company would ruin me. His voice became, in addition to being stronger, she's brought wisdom, empathy, and strength to our household. Rather than honoring her rather than embracing, we have treated her as though she isn't efficient for us. He faced me, he took my hands and murmured, I'm sorry, loud enough to be heard by everybody. And me apologize for not protecting you. I apologize for failed to defend you. I apologize for allowing they act as though you don't belong when you're the greatest thing ever occurred to this family. I observative forgiven your debt, Victoria and Amanda. Due of my affection for Jonathan and the fact that I think that family is powerful, yet I will no longer put up with rudeness. I won't compromise myself for you. Comfy. I inhaled deeply. If you desire for me to join this family, if you can't, then treat me like family. Do that, and we'll continue to be courteous. Separation, however, the days of subtly harsh and humiliation in public are over. The ensuing weeks were life-changing. Amanda and Victoria asked for a quiet. They came to my workplace to talk with me, which, in my opinion, was important. I apologize to you, Victoria replied. It was gentler than I had ever heard. The conduct has been unacceptable. We allowed our personal biases impair our judgment. Amanda gave a nod. I was intimidated by you are everything I've ever wanted. She said. Was brought up to think I was, but you truly merited it. You constructed something from nothing, and I got it from my everything. I believe I harbored resentment that, although it wasn't a flawless apology, it was truthful. You don't have to love me I told them about me. However, I need you to please show me respect. I require that you treat me as because I am a member of this family. Victoria gave a slow nod. We want to give it a go. Once more, she said, we want to begin anew, if you're open to it. It wasn't simple. Have faith is not immediately restored. However, with time things started to shift. Victoria began including me into family planning. Amanda started requesting my counsel. They presented me to their pals without qualification. More significantly, Jonathan and I became closer. The key was at last in the public eye. I ought to have been keeping you safe. One, he said evening, you found yourself in the center, you were attempting to love everyone, I remarked. This isn't always feasible. You have to make a decision sometimes. I decide to you, simply, he said. Each time I make a decision. Reflecting about the evening at the gala, charity, I understand that it was the then everything was different. It was the when pretense gave way to truth, when performance was supplanted. By sincerity, I consider that young girl from the South Side sometimes. The individual who conducted research be the light of a candle and imagined a better life. I would want to inform her that the trek would be more difficult than anticipatem was dying. However, I would also let her know that she didn't realize how powerful she was, should have been anywhere she wanted to be. In actuality, we all have times when we mischoose our identities and what we're present. Everybody has times when they must decide between shrinking enough to conform to the expectations of others' expectations, or taking a proud stance and asserting our position in the globe. As for me, when the time arrived, I took the microphone and said the truth. It wasn't simple, but essential. It was the point at which I ceased requesting authoritariness to be myself and began requesting the deference I was due. Relatives who used to make fun of me now incorporates me into their choices. The woman who referred to me as an unsuitable addition now seeks my counsel. Those who believe that I no longer belong realize that I always belonged, and I want to depart with that lesson with you. No matter where you go, you belong to exist. Your value isn't established by opinions of others, their permission, or their consent. Your deeds decide your value. The way you behave and your reluctance to be reduced. There are occasions when you must take the mic and share your own tale. You have to get up and talk sometimes. Your truth. You have to preserve sometimes. Those who didn't believe you were worth preserving. However, once you do, when you have the guts to be who you truly are, something wonderful occurs with you. You change more than simply your own life. You make a difference in the lives of those around you. You become a living example of anything being feasible, that obstacles can be removed, that value is earned rather than inherited. If you found resonance in this narrative, have you ever had a sense of alienation? Either there, or if you've ever needed to locate bravery to defend oneself, I desire for you to understand that you are not alone. Your narrative and voice are important, and you're not welcome in any room. Mishap, it's a right, strike that click. The subscribe button if you think that everyone is entitled to receive respect and decency, no matter where they originate. Distribute this video to someone who must be informed that they belong anywhere they choose to be. And keep in mind that your value isn't based on the opinions of others. Tell me about a moment in the comments section when you needed to defend yourself, when it was time to discover your voice, when others attempted to keep you quiet. Your narrative, it might be just what someone else needs. To listen, keep in mind that you don't need consent to be who you are. You don't require permission to occupy space. You didn't require confirmation from others to understand your value. All you need is the guts to get up, tell the truth, and declinido. Be lessened. I appreciate you hearing my tale. Till the next occasion, continue to shine your light. The globe requires what you can provide, even though some individuals are too oblivious to their own restrictions to view it. Remain resilient and persistent. Genuine, and remember that you belong anywhere you choose to.